Hey guys, how's it going? Last night's episode was pretty freaking amazing. Duke Sven, His Royal Majesty Duke Sven, he had a lot of very strict and disciplined policies when it comes to fighting, and he literally makes his guys go through 1,000 strikes before they start fighting on Sundays, at least once a week. And just a lot of the things he was saying about working out and being, disciplined and in the moment of having that personal accountability for you being a better fighter, knowing that it's going to take time, knowing that it's going to be a grind at times, and understanding that was really cool for me to hear, because it's a lot of the same principles that I've been personally trying to develop in myself. And so knowing that there's somebody else out there that's as hard on themselves as he is, it's pretty cool to listen to. So hope you guys enjoy this video, and here's His Royal Majesty Duke Sven.
Move back and forth. And we find that most people, when they're pelling for practice, they move too much. You put too much English into it. You're using your body too much. For basic pelling, for us, it's like an exercise. We really square our frame. We do it more shoulder, more you're throwing. You want to have a good, clean mechanic without adding weight transfer or turning or stepping and stuff. You want to have just a clean, mechanically sound shot, and you're just going to throw it over and over again. And so we'll practice on that 1 through 6 drill. And our average routine that we do every Thursday up until recently is we do 1,000 shots a hand. And then you'll do the 1 through 6 drill. We start it from the low side. You'll do it forward with your right hand. You'll do it forward with your left hand, and then you'll do it backwards with your right hand, backwards with your left hand. And that's one cycle. You'll do the cycle 7 times. Takes about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on what kind of shape you're in. The big thing there is don't get in a hurry. Most people won't be able to do 1,000 shots. They burn out long before then. But once you can consistently throw a high volume of shots like that over a long period of time, your shoulders will really start to develop, and then you don't get tired while trying to fight. Okay. And I find that's the biggest detriment to newer fighters. They just get tired, and then they just get beat on. Once you don't get tired, then you can really focus on the learning aspect of fighting. But it's a lot of pel work. Most of my guys take probably about 6 months to consistently do the 1,000, sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on where you're at with your conditioning.
So you have them do 1,000 strikes a day, and
once a week. We come over
once a week. Okay.
Yeah, but my Thursday outside in my backyard here, I have 8 pels set up. We use the Wavemaster XXL bag, the big 72-inch tall padded bag, and then I'll have 10 to 12 people over, and then what we start with is the cycles. Everybody has to get through 1,000 before we start practice. And so it takes about an hour, hour 15. Wow. And we'll practice through our deal. Once you do, most people burn out early. The people who burn out early, they do individual shots. They'll work on their flat snap. They'll work on their offside. But your goal is to make 1,000, and then you know you have. Then fighting should not make you tired. Now you know what a good crisp shot feels like. And usually throwing that around a 6 or a 7. You're not trying to blow the bag up. You're not trying to throw some weak ass stuff. You just want to hit the bag with a basic callable blow, like just right at that edge.
Okay.
And once you can do that, now you know what it feels like to hit correctly. Now we work on stepping. We work on in close work. We work on the transition. You work on you add all the little pieces, to that, because now you internally know whether it was a good shot or not. When you're like, nah, it was bad. And I can tell you're leaning, hunching, reaching, your body weight's off, your hand's too high. And a lot of people, they don't have a way to self-correct. So like when you're pelling by yourself, you can watch it on video later. I find that if you pel and you're throwing a shot and you're not sure about your mechanics throwing it, throw it off one foot. Throw it off your left or your right foot. And if you can't consistently throw it off that foot, you're probably reaching a little too much with your back, or your weight is off, or you're hunching. There's something, your hand is too low. There's something incorrect in there. And once you can consistently throw that shot from that 1 foot, it's mechanically sound, right? Because you're throwing from your core, you're reaching through, and you're making that good clean shot. If you do that on 1 foot, standing still without adding all this big stuff, it's a good shot. You can add to it. It doesn't take that much to add to it. Then it's just a little more repetition. You're adding small pieces, working on stuff. You're going to work on any close stuff. We're going to work on far away stuff. But you build off your basics. Be able to throw a good killing blow, and you throw a lot of them.
Yeah, right.
The other part of our practice is most of our guys came from foam. Most of the guys that came over with me are either Royal Peers or Knighted now themselves. But we do a lot of foam stuff. Like if we're working on two sword or hand dominance issues, like we'll fight with our foam padded equipment. We'll do a lot of high reps that way, because we have found that if you can read and predict and track foam weapons, which are far faster than SCA weapons, what you get from it is that reading skill, that minutia, the small range control, the ability to be in a good position. Because the primary thing of being a good two-sworder is not that you throw a lot of shots, is that you put yourself in good opportunities. You have good positioning, you're at right ranges, your hands are blocking primary, secondary. The primary thing about what we do, it's just good reading and good position. Because what you don't want to do is try to move your hands all around. You just want to be there as early as possible in the shot to be able to throw back. And so we'll do a lot of foam training drills like block strike and a few other things that are work on developing that. I guess I can explain block strike. It's you stand 3 foot apart with a 3 foot short sword, and then you identify, and then inside and outside, usually by like the outside arm of the body, and then where you're crossing your center line, whether it be chest or arm or where you throw it at, but it's always from one side to the other. And the objective is you're going to stand this 3 foot apart, and then I'm going to swing. You're going to attempt to block it and throw back, right? And a lot of people, they're trying not to be killed. They're trying to hit the other guy. What it's really about is learning a primary, secondary. So if I throw here and my hand is lower than your pommel, what's your most likely to return? If I throw back body, my hand is higher, what's your primary return? And so you do a lot of denying, working inside your square and your frame, and it really helps you, because blocking is not just moving your arm in space. Some of it is a little hunch, a little reach, a little turn, and you're really working on fine tuning and getting rid of hand bounce. In foam, primary way you get killed is when you get out of position. We call it hand bounce. Your hand goes when you have that and you're doing foam, you're a dead person, because that misdirection going the wrong way, you're just going to get killed because you can't recover fast enough. And I find that if you can get rid of that hand bounce and you keep your frame more centered and more square, you're just going to live a lot longer. So we really work on frame correction and just a crap ton of basics. We do basics so much, but that's all we do. Like we very rarely spar in our normal practices. Now we'll do Sunday practices once a month and stuff like that for just fighting, but practice, I find most people are not actually practicing. They just want to get together and fight. Whereas we're working on drills and essential mechanics, and the one thing you should always have something to improve on. But it's just a lot of basics mechanics. So much basics. And this leads into the second part of it. You heard me talk about it, is conditioning, right? And I'll talk a lot about conditioning. There's tons of people out there in better shape than me. There's tons of people who have got good videos on it. I have my home gym here. We do a lot of Olympic lifting, got my rowing machine, and this basic body weight exercises. That's really all you need to do in shape for SCA.
You had me at Olympic lifting.
We got my nice squat rack and my we do 6 jump ropes. I got 600 pounds of bumper plates, 2 rowing machines. So
nice.
Not like we work out all the time, but last summer we did a bunch. And then basic jump rope, basic rowing. If you can't do that very much, you're going to struggle over longer periods of time. Because most people that you fight one time and the other, they want to count their coup. That's not necessarily what you're looking for. You want to be able to fight tired. You want to be able to fight all day. And you're not always going to bring your best. Like when you fight all day, you're going to go down, but you still got to be able to stay on point, stay on form, and bring your best and not quit. To me, it's there's several nights out there that I see it. Duke Sven is a great example. Duke Lachlan from here. People, when they put their helmet on, they just fight till everybody else is done. And when I started, it's something that inspired me. It's okay to be good for 5 minutes, but I want to be good for an hour. I want to be good for a couple hours. I want to get out there and give my best.
Yeah,
So we really preach conditioning.
absolutely.
'Cause
We
you're
have a
tired,
question from Facebook, if I can interrupt you really quick. They ask, how often are you working out?
me
Yep.
right now, not much since I had last at the end of last year I got a hernia, a lower hernia,
Okay.
and then I went to adult swim and I got a second hernia. And I since I was young and in relative good shape, it took a long time for me to get my surgery,
Okay.
and they scheduled it far out. And then I actually got released to fight right before our crown tournament that I won. I'd been released 2 weeks before to lift more than 10 pounds.
Okay.
And I went to that tournament anticipating to lose because I had not been able to fight since Thanksgiving the year before when I got the first surgery. I had Thanksgiving and I fought at adult swim when I wasn't supposed to. And then I had to have a surgery. And then so when I recovered from that, the recovery from the surgery was very poor. Like I still feel the sections where I got cut on, they still bother me a lot.
Okay.
And the going from that right into King, not doing much at all. But I recently got everything back out. I've been trying to row and trying to exercise, but my motivation has been low with everything with the SCA lately. Between work and that, it's just not indicative for me to get out there. I'm not as motivated as used to. What keeps me motivated is all my young guys. I have a bunch of guys in their 20s. When they come over, they help motivate me, you know.
Absolutely.
But the answer for me right now is next to none because I don't see any of my friends or any of my squires or any of my students.
Okay. And then one more question from Facebook land before we get, I don't want to get too bogged down in questions right now. We will answer a lot of them at the end, just a gentle reminder for everybody. Star asks, how often do you pel or do you pel?
Once a week, I get out there and burn it out. Like the purpose of pelling, I find that when you're only doing like 100 or so shots, you're not really even warming up. Like I find that at my level, I can bang on that pel for do my whole 1,000 shots and really just be warm. You know, like finally get a good sweat on,
Okay.
and then I can throw for a lot longer. But then I'm just working on once I get warmed up from because that's what we do for warm up. Once we get that, I'm working on an individual thing. Like if something has been bothering me lately, like I want to work on my offside or my step, or I feel like I'm not turning my hand over. You know, I really just focus and I'll just throw that until I'm happy with it. You know, and then something else. Well, we do a lot of individual spot stuff. Like when my guys are fighting, I don't like this. I'm just going to make them throw that. We're just going to throw that, you know, couple 300 times. We just throw it until I like your step. I like how you're lean. I like where your hand is. And then once you get it right, we're just going to throw it until I like it. We're going to go do it with the other hand, do the same thing, and we're going to roll back to that hand, you know, because a lot of people, I find they pelt till they like it and they go away from it and don't come back to it. But you need to constantly rehit that and refresh it to make sure that it's still where you want it to be.
Gotcha.
Makes sense?
All right. That's all the questions so far. So feel free to.
All right. And so for your basics into your conditioning, we're going to talk about why you fight or why you practice, you know, because we've really talked about, we spent a lot of time on these basics and a lot of time on this conditioning. For me, what I try to give my guys is I always try to make sure they have one thing that I want them to work on, sometimes two. It's one thing. A lot of people are always looking for, I find people in general, really, not just a lot of people, they're always looking for that next best thing or like what's going to make me a better fighter. It's really more about polishing your stone. You know, when you're out there fighting, everybody has tendencies, everybody has bad habits, everybody has something they're not as good at is something else. And as a whole, you should take what you're bad at and just work on that until it's not. And what we say here is you want to suck less. You're not trying to get better. You just want to suck less at what you're doing here. If your feet are too long, or you're reaching with your back, or your hands bounce too much, or your posture is bad, or you're looking down, you know, you pick something specific and you work on that until it doesn't suck. And so when you're out there fighting or out there sparring, you want to spar with a purpose. So if you've got somebody that's not as good as you, that's an opportunity to work on blocking, reading, stepping, getting yourself into good positions. You got somebody that's better than you, those are opportunities for defense, throwing, trying to make turns. You know, where can I get him to throw to read? Because a lot of people they have a primary shot they like, you know, throw into it, get them to throw back. You know, then you're just working on small specific things in fights. I could lose every fight out there if the objective of my fighting session is as I'm getting that consistently, the outcome of the match is it's the stuff while you're fighting. Always have small goals to work on. Don't worry about it. You can't kill people. That's not the overall goal. The goal is to be a better fighter. That's where you want your knowledge. You want to take what you're working on and put it to practice. And as a side part of that, I have found that most people, what they think they're doing versus what they're actually doing are two different things. There's a disconnect there. And that's why I always say people to have the person who's training you watch, and you can also videotape. So that way you have two methods, because you can see when he was talking to you about something or cheat, whatever. And then you can see that mental picture versus what you see in person. And that really helps them put all the pieces of the puzzle together. So always have small goals, stuff you're working on. And it doesn't have to be the same one. Like you feel like you're getting somewhere, you're not getting anywhere with it, not getting it, pick another small goal, just circle back to it, you know, in and out. And it's always stats based, leaning, hunching, reaching, hands, it's posture. It's if people are getting tired, like, hey, I see you're getting tired a lot fighting, holding your breath, too tense, you're not relaxed, being lazy, not working out, not doing it. Well, what's happening, and you get feedback and develop feedback for the person you're teaching. And that helps motivate them to get out there and fight more. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. So far, so good. There's a couple more questions if you want to answer them.
Yeah.
Quintus Drake asks, while pelling your 1,000 strike drills, do you need to worry about injury if you are older, particularly the biceps tendon while you're holding weight up in the other hand?
So that's actually my name, Duke Drake.
Okay.
He actually tore his bicep tendon last year or the year before at my practice. So his we actually do with both hands, left and right-handed, whether you fight two-sword or not. Okay. Once you get established at it, the pelling itself won't make you tired, right? And so we'll do a lot. You'll hold the 10-pound weight in your arm out or whatever it is to draw attention to your shoulder, because that straight just tension of holding your hands up in the air under stress, that workout in itself is just as good, if not your throwing mechanics. And so him being the lazy, out of shape self that he was at my practice, I told him it wasn't the Pell's fault, it's the fact that he was out of shape. You're a big boy. Oh, I gotcha. My 2-year-old. Say hi, Constantine. Hi. You want down? There you go. Good job. You want down? Maybe. Are you gonna sit here with me? Okay, that works. Hey.
Hi.
Now, thing like there's a difference between being sore, hurt, and injured, right?
Absolutely.
And the purpose of working out, the purpose of pushing yourself is to know what your limits are. And but you got to be honest with yourself, right? You can't do all this stuff, hey, and be like, oh, I'm injured, I can't continue, or I'm just too tired. Those excuses will hold you back. If you're really wanting to improve, you're gonna have to push yourself past the, oh, I'm tired a little bit, oh, I'm a little sore. That's when I feel the worst is when I'm working out the most. It's because I'm always sore. I recover slower, especially now that I'm getting older. So you just always feel that ache and that your muscles die as quick, but you can't let that hold you back. You gotta keep pushing through. I mean, if you have interest in improving, that's part of the process. You don't get anywhere without any effort. That's for sure.
Yeah,
thanks
for sure.
Good to hear from you, Greg.
All right. I think we're good. Keep on going.
All right.
If you're ready.
So now this is kind of the area. You've seen a lot of these other areas they take a lot of time. They take a lot of motivation, and some of that you can help with. Like you can help get them out there, because improvement a lot of times makes people want to get out there and practice. They want to get better. But what you can't teach is drive and focus. You got, it's just like working out, right? My big deal, like when I really get back into my workout kicks, is I get in a routine. And once I have a routine established, as long as I keep that routine, I never have a problem with wanting to do it, because that just becomes part of what I do. But getting that routine back is the hardest part, right? Because
Absolutely.
you have to want it, right? You got to set time aside to go do it. And that's the hardest thing with younger fighters, is they don't necessarily know what they're asking for, and you've got to try to explain it to them what it is, and then they have to have that drive or that focus or that want to do it. And some people love it for different things. Like, I like fighting because to me, there's nothing more exciting than me trying to impose my will upon someone else and then trying to do it back to me. Like that to me is just the best thing ever out there, getting out there and fighting. Some people like the aspect of winning. Some people like the grind of getting better. When you're lifting weights and stuff like that, you never conquer the weights, but you're conquering yourself because your lifts go up, your stamina go up, all your times you see improvement, and that's the hardest thing to take from sword fighting. It's hard to see improvement without you're like, oh, I'm killing that guy, and that's why I try to focus so much on it's never really about killing your opponent. It's about being better at this. But when we bring people over, that drive and focus part is hard, and you'll see either they have it or they don't. And a lot of people, when they come to me, they say, "Hey, I would like to learn to sword fight." I'm always like, "You really don't." It's like there are other people to learn from. There are lots of things that make it enjoying. I'm like, do you really like sword fighting? They're like, "Oh yeah," like oh, I like to fight. I'm like, no, like, do you really like it? Could you go all year practicing and never be told you're doing well? You doing good? Say hi to them. Say wave this way. There you go.
Hi, buddy.
A lot of it is the have fun. Say yes.
Hi.
They heard.
I just want to say hi. Love it.
You want to
I
chase
don't
the dog?
feel nearly as bad when my daughter gets on here and does the same thing. So,
No. But I try to be very clear with people who ask me that. I hear you, little buddy. Well, what they're asking for, because my problem early on is people are like, "Hey, I want to be a good sword fighter." I'm like, "Oh yeah, come over to practice. We'll work on it." And after the first week or two, they're like, "Oh, when are we gonna do something else?" I'm like, when you don't suck at this, like it takes a minute to not be terrible at this." And they're like, "Well, I really kind of feel like I'm getting it." I was like, "Yeah, it sounds like somebody who's bad at that. What they would say, you got to put some more time into it." And so I spend a lot of my time as a teacher trying to make people sure they understand what they're getting into. So we're like, "Hey, you super good doing this same thing right here for the next year. Are you good at like not being told you're good?" Because I tell my guys, I'm not here to build them up personally. If you come to learn from me, I'm here to make you a better fighter. And you need to understand there's a little bit of sacrifice going to go into that, and a little bit of listening. Because I tell people, I was like, when you work with us or my school and my guys, I'm not really interested in what you want to do. You came to me because you want to be a good fighter. I need you to do what you're told and trust the system, and you'll be a good fighter. And sometimes you got to swallow your pride. And I tell people, if I could do it when I was coming through, and I listened to my night, he'll tell you that I didn't listen very well, but I listened. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. If your goal is what you want, you can set your time aside for it. They hear you, little buddy. But no matter what drives you gotta believe the end goal is what you're looking for. If you not want to put the time into it, I can't teach it to you. You either want it or you don't. But as a teacher or as a student, you can't hold ill will against those kind of against people if they burn out or they find out it's not something they want to get into. This just is what it is. It's like people who want to lose weight or people who want to work out. I mean, it's a matter of willpower and timing. And sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't. And to be okay with it, but you understand you're going to put some time in. Yeah, you're going to put a lot of time in. And I tell people, I was like, it's not that I loved fighting when I was younger. It's that I had an obsession with it. When I lost, or when something that I felt like I should have done well at happened to me, it would bother me. Like the scenario would run through your head over and over again. It would be like a book you hadn't finished reading. It was something you wanted to readdress. You would sleep on it and see, and it would just like an itch you couldn't scratch until you solved that problem. And it was like maybe so much like an addiction. It was just something that I enjoyed and want to put that time into. And as I got older, I don't necessarily have that all-consuming drive like I used to when I was younger. But that's where I came from on it, and that's how I teach. But you got to want to fight. If you don't want it, it's a hard road to hoe.
So then, I mean, listening to you, like I'm a personal trainer by trade, and so we're very like-minded in that aspect of like you got to want it, and if you don't want to put the work in, you're not going to earn it. how would
you can't just it's gotta you
yeah
gotta want it.
yeah you gotta want it right, and then so what are yeah, exactly. So what are your thoughts on when you get a student that gets to like what's the word? It was right there and then it escaped me. Like when a plateau, that's the word. Like when they hit a plateau and they're struggling to get past a certain point of skill level, so to speak.
To me, it's not a plateau. Like for us, you can either do your 1,000 or you can't, so you have a goal there in mind. You can either throw all these shots or you can't. And so you have a goal there. You can either do this, and then so if you always have micro goals, you really take away from that plateau, because a lot of people plateau is winning and losing. It's not about the winning and it's not about the losing. It's about the learning. It's about taking what's presented to you and building from that. The wins will come as you improve and as you get better. Certain things you do will kill people. You'll win fights you should, because they are unused to it. They adjust. Can you build and grow from that? And if you can't, you just got to put the time in. If you don't want to put the time in, you're not going to get better. It's just an application of time and force. I tell people, if you won't quit on me, I won't quit on you. But you got to be willing to put that time in. I'm not gonna smother you. You got to want it.
Yeah.
And everybody who puts the time in is good.
Yeah, gotcha. Not here to hold your hand, here to teach you. So, love it.
And you tell people, our favorite thing is, we always say, the mountain doesn't come to you, come to the mountain. If you're here to learn, that's what you're here to learn. Once you can beat me consistently, you can do what you want. But until then, this is how we do it.
Perfect. Oh man, love that. Thank you. All right, that's all I had. I was just curious, so feel free to.
No, it's my style was developed in another game, and I brought it here, and I was smart enough and good enough at what I did. It took me about a year, and I really focused on my training, my aspect, and what I could get good at, and I worked with my knight on what he was good at, and I took that into the teachable style. It's very teachable and fun. It's when you fight a couple games, that everybody calls it my style, and when you come over here, it's teachable. Everybody I've taught it is done well with it. It just takes a want and an understanding of it, because the way we fight is two sword. I fight a ton of shield guys, and in different styles, they all fight very similar, versus where a two sword guy, a sword and shield guy has to really learn a new way, a new approach, what to do, what he shouldn't do, what works here, what doesn't work here. And that may take a year or so if you don't get enough exposure to it. And so some of that is people come to my house, we work on, they come to train with me, not necessarily because they want to learn to fight two sword, but they want to understand what we're doing, like how we apply it. We teach them just like they're two sword. This is what we do. This is what we work on over and over. Lots of repetition. Drake will tell you it's the most boring thing ever, but it's effective.
Yeah.
And let's see, did I hit them all? Got the teacher and the student, got the drive and the focus, got the advancement, working on conditioning, and your basics. So many basics.
Yep.
Yeah. But they all go into each other. You can't have a lot of basics if you don't have good conditioning. And if you don't know how to advance, you don't have a mindset for advancement, you're not going to do well with your basics, because they suck. Let's be honest. Nobody wants to do a shit ton of basics, but you always got to have goals. You got to always be trying to improve. It's like, your PRs for lifting. Goal there from week to week, it may not go up. It may go up 10 pounds, it may go up 5 pounds, but what it shows you, if you put the time in, you get the improvement, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sans injury, you're going to get improvement. You just got to put time in. And I find that most people get disheartened because they're not winning fights. And we do our best to make sure it's not about winning. It's about sucking less.
Sucking less.
Suck less, win more.
Suck less, win more. It's a pretty famous saying that I've been hearing from Timmer a lot is, yes, suck less. So, but yeah. So
some people say embrace the grind, whatever it is, but it's about the growth, and and it's, to me, I learned to play the guitar at a very young age. A lot of my people, a lot of family members of mine play the guitar very well. And what's the first thing people see when they get the guitar? What do they want to do? They want to play a song, right? They're like, I want to play a song. But before you can play a song, you need to learn to read music, understand your basic timing and your notes of what music is, and then be able to play them. And so my father could play, I think he plays like 10 or 11 instruments. sometimes he would punish us to play the guitar. We would have to play the basic chording, the basic notes, play your chording, play your notes over and over again. And I did that growing up, and I haven't played the guitar in 10 years since I taught my son how to play. And I still can run the notes because I just did it over and over and over. It's basic repetition. And I personally can't play the guitar, but I still can do
it. Yeah. No, I mean, you gotta build a solid foundation with the basics before you can even think about doing advanced stuff.
Yeah. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I'll play that one song," but do you really know anything about the guitar? Yeah, right. You just learn how to copy something. You don't have an understanding. You don't have the fundamentals. You're not going to go far without your basics.
Exactly. Okay, perfect.
That's kind of my general overview. There's a lot of other stuff that I really didn't dive into that I guess I can if we get asked some questions.
Sure.
I'm open for any of that or any questions you have. I'm good.
Yeah. How about you just give us one quick recap of your 5? I mean, even if you just want to read down the list so people just tuning in can understand it.
It's basics. You as trying to be a good fighter, you have to have an absurd obsession with basics. Your first year or two, you spend an inordinate amount of time working on basic mechanics, whether it be throwing, stepping, reading, just your foundation. Without a good foundation, anything else you do is wasted time. You're gonna need a little bit of conditioning if you're gonna be working on fighting. This is an active hobby, and I find that most of my students and people I work with, where they die is they get tired. Say I'm fighting a guy who's doing real well, and I was like, man, this guy's doing well. The best way to kill that guy is fight him for another 4 or 5 minutes. See how he does then kill him. Right? It's like I'm trying to expend as little energy as possible while making him hold his breath and have to move and pick his shield up, burn him down a little bit, then kill him, right? And to me, it's less risky. My night Duke drink is all about the less risk, the better. There's no shot clock. If it doesn't look perfect, don't go for it. Run him around for a little bit more, then try to kill him. And so you're going to need some conditioning. You're going to have some 5, 6, 10-minute fights, depending on who you're fighting, sizes of shields and spaces of list fields. So come prepared. Then you're going to have advancement. We talk about how martial arts has its belts and its pathways to recognize advancement, and weightlifting has your PRs and everything. And too many people in fighting, they get caught up on wins and losses. And so we have small goals, like whether they be through conditioning, shot throwing, mechanics, working on setups, all the stuff that you can really set into. You need to have goals. Either you set them for yourself or the guy that's working for you have goals so that you can see growth and see advancement. And then it doesn't have to be a different goal all the time. You can work on the same thing. You hit 2 or 3 things. You come back to that one. We generally try to make it the thing you're worst at, or one or 2 things. But I generally only try to give my guys one thing, and because that way it helps them tune in on what they're doing, good or bad. And once I see that I'm okay with that, we switch to something else. We'll do that for 2 or 3 weeks. We may go back, address it, come through. But always have small goals, stuff to work on. You want to have an individual concept. Like my feet are too wide, my hands are too low. I've got hand balance. I'm reaching with my back. Not driving through my shots, stepping out too much, or leaving my body weight. There's tons of small things that you can address and be like, this thing I hate, get rid of that. And that helps people, give them something internalized to lift themselves up with. That will help them. In all this, you're going to spend some time on it. So you're going to understand that you got to have some drive and some focus. You got to want this. You got to want it like we said, like a fish wants water. You have to understand that it's very you determine the amount of success you have. Your investment in is what you get out, so you can't lie about yourself. So when we pell on the 1,000 a hand, if you throw a bad shot in part of the, because Uther's drills are 2 shots, whether it's 1-1 or 1-6, whatever. If either one of those shots is bad, throw it again, because the objective is to throw 1,000 good shots with each hand. And it's not throwing 999, it's 1,000. You throw them correctly, or don't bother getting out there. Put the time and effort in, right? Be honest with yourself.
Okay. And
you can't teach drive and focus. You got to want it. You got to have that obsession. You got to have a reason to want to get out there and do it. And it will come and go, but it takes that. You got to just be like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And for me, what I tell people is it helps have somebody that can teach you, someone to learn from, whether it be a fellow fighter, a Duke Knight, anybody you feel like has a like-minded concept, something you want to learn, is have somebody work with you. There are very few people who came up individually who did not get better with someone else or someone else teaching them, whether they come up in a pair or a teacher and a student. In Amp Guard, I had a good friend of mine. We came up together. He was tall, big, and fast, and I was small, skinny, and fast. And so we worked on stuff and we came up together. And I don't think I could have done it in a vacuum. And then when I came over here, I was pretty good and hard-headed, didn't listen well. But my knight came to me and approached me and with some ideas. And I really had to sit back and think about like what I was trying to get out of the SCA and the approach. And I was willing to listen. You know, I tell people, if my dumb ass can listen, you can do it. It can be done. And not all teachers are meant for other students. Sometimes it won't work out. That's okay. But you understand that it helps to do it in pairs. You got to have somebody who's going to lift you up. To do it by yourself is hard. And I've found that to do it with a partner, do it with three of you. The reason I like pairs is for me, I have my guys pairs against each other. I try to recruit two at a time or two people similar skill level. That way they can fight each other and I can watch, and they can fight somebody of better skill level or worse skill level. That way I always have something that we can review in video or talk about what they did or didn't like, you know?
Okay. Absolutely makes sense. All right. So we have some questions from Facebook, unless you have some other comments that you'd like to go into.
No, we've got plenty of other stuff on there, but it's just more diatribe about the same thing. Like the what we're doing it for and all that stuff. But I can get into some of that if some of the questions delve into.
Sure. So you kind of touched base on this already, but we had a question about, do you have any quick tips for new fighters, like newcomers coming into the game as a fighter?
As a fighter, I tell people, if you want to fight, you can't get tired fighting, right? So row, a little bit of rowing, do a little jump rope, something that's but nothing will prepare you for fighting except doing stuff like fighting, right? Picking that shield up or holding your hands up. And what tires most people out is that tenseness, that worry that it's a stick, right? They're like, oh, I'm gonna get hit, you know. And a lot of people who box, that's the first thing to tire, that tension, that holding your breath. You just can't let it bother you. Like when you're out there fighting, that stick don't mean shit. Don't worry about it. I was like, that's the least of your worries. Get out there, impose your will, and do your thing.
Okay.
Fighting as a whole, the quicker you learn to relax and not hold your breath, the better you will be at fighting. And it's a hard thing to say because when you start, you're like, oh, that stick, it really hurts. You just got to learn to. That's part of it. That's part of the process. You're trying to hit him. He's trying to hit you. If you're stick fighting, somebody's getting hit. Probably both of you. Accept the fact. Just fight. Don't worry about it. And go. That learning to relax, is just the hardest thing to do, and it takes about a year or two. You're going to get hit a lot.
Absolutely.
And I tell people, armor as much or as little as you feel necessary. When I came over, I was pretty good. My knight swore down that I was a knight from another kingdom who came here to mess with people. But even I wore full chest armor, full legs, a hip protector. I was worried about getting hit with these huge arms because I came from a game that the sticks didn't hurt. And within a year, as I dropped armor, as I felt more comfortable. And I don't fight anything now. I fight in the least they will let me fight in. But I don't get a ton. I don't come home with a ton of bruises. I don't get hit a ton. It doesn't bother me. But part of it, when you get hit, you're like, that was unpleasant.
Yeah. Whew, got it.
But
thank you.
That's a great shot, you know. But I just relax like that. And to me, learning to relax, working on basics, and throwing shots. In addition to relaxing, you're going to have to get used to throwing shots. And you're going to throw a high volume. You're going to use to hold that shield up. All those new people that pick that shield up, their arm dies. They pick that shield up, that arm dies. You just got to get used to holding your hands up. And that's part of the 1 through 6 drill. Is throwing the shots is not what's tiring. It's the recovery. As you throw, picking your hand back up to throw again, to pick your hand back up, to throw again. This motion right here, that pick up as you throw, is what burns you down. And because your arm is going to give way. And the more you get into it, once you get to where you can throw 1,000, your shoulders don't get tired. It's just a lot easier to work on stuff.
Okay, gotcha. His Majesty Duke Uther has a question for you. So go ahead and turn your mic on too, man.
Hey, brother. You know, Duke Titus had talked to me about your fighting before he passed, and he really raved about you. And he said you guys did grip strength training or hand strength training in specific. I might be misremembering, but I was just curious if you can touch on that, if that's something you guys do.
We do. I used to do a lot of indoor rock climbing and stuff,
Yeah.
and I still love climbing. But a lot of what we do is we do a lot of forearm and hand exercises. So we take that 10 or that 15-pound weight, on that stick, and you'll just roll it up and down. So you'll roll it to where that's your weight will come up, touch your weight, and then you'll let it all the way down to the ground and continue to roll until it comes back to you, and then you let it back down. And that's one. And generally we would do 3 to 5 of those every other day, and so that's what helps give you your your arms and your hand strength, because the pull on that, the let down is not so bad, but that pull where you come out on the backside of your arms, that really helps your arms not tire. So between your hands and your forearms having good strength and your shoulders having good strength, you're just not going to get tired. And by doing that, you learn not to over grip. Like most people, they just death grip their swords and burn out. But we do spend an inordinate amount of time doing that. I don't as much as I used to, because I've got a freaking 15-inch forearm. I'm not too worried about it now, but back then we did, because it helps with your wrist strength. It really builds up your wrists back and forth. Too many people let the wrist go loose. It helps your tendons, and it just gives you a lot of mass in your arms. I'm a plumber by trade, so I used to do a lot of pipe fitting, and that helps. But I find that if you have small wrists and small arms, the easiest way to work on it is just isolate it and do forearm exercises and some climbing. I love climbing.
Okay. All right, it's interesting. It's not something I've ever addressed in my own fighting. I'm a gorilla, so maybe I didn't need to. But
no, and I'll be honest, your traditional sword is heavier than most people, and I use a pretty heavy sword by comparison here, rawhide wrapped, and I think a heavier mass sword is good. It carries through, gives you it makes a 6 carry further. Versus a lighter sword bounces off, it'll be a 3. I like a weighty sword, and I find that I also relax. I use the same style of trigger as you do, the 3-finger trigger. I find that that's the easiest to keep my hands relaxed when I'm transitioning from one shot to the other. I don't have to worry about opening and closing my hands. I just know that if I redirect with my arm and my elbow or roll my shoulder, my sword will follow, because you apply your mass and motion to it, and it just flips your sword over and goes back. I find that most people are probably just over gripping their sword and depending too much on this instead of the mechanics that led into that, right? They're trying to force and push versus throw and go, and they're burning themselves down and robbing themselves of power.
Well, that's a really good explanation. Thanks. And it's something I might try and add to my own fighting just to see what it does. And I love what you're saying about swords. I don't use as heavy a sword as I used to, but I still keep a tip heavy sword, so that when the boom gets there, it's rolling to the end of the stick, not into my hand.
Yeah, my left-handed sword, I usually put a 12 to 18-inch piece of rawhide on the very end of it, because shields just kill my swords in general. Just burns through people's car door edges and whatever. And so I go through a lot of left-handed swords. I also have 4 squires and 3 knights who also burn through swords. So we seem like we carry a golf bag wherever we go. So anything that would make my left-handed sword last longer, we use. But without fail, that left-handed one is all tip weight, because we do a bunch of front blades and back blades. And then this one is just a beater. Like your helmet hitter, I find, is ours are usually a 34-inch sword, usually about a 2-inch piece of rattan. I want something that's got good mass. If I'm hitting the helmet, I don't want it to deflect off. I want it to be a solid strike.
No, love what you're saying, brother. Thanks, man. Appreciate the answers.
No problem.
Okay, now it's my daughter's turn to say hi. Hi. So there's a load of questions coming in. So, but one thing that I have been challenged to ask in all these videos is from Sir Helga. She asks, out of your five things you've brought up, which one was the hardest skill for you to master, and which one came the easiest?
Well, my knight would tell you it was humility, because back then I called it humility because I didn't have any of it. But now for practice, I was already a conditioned fighter from another sport. The hardest thing for me is I had to listen, right? I had to find a teacher who would help me adjust to the SCA, because I could already fight, and it's partially a problem sometimes. You come across these guys who learn really quickly, and they don't get that. People don't feel they get that vested time in the SCA. Like these people didn't get their tie into you, so that creates some dissent. So I need to learn how to work inside the SCA and how the SCA works. Like how do you talk to people that didn't kill you, and ask for feedback, and just generally learn the ropes. So for me, it was bending the knee. It was being willing to listen to someone else, because from the other games, I was over there, super famous, well known, played forever, and one of the best in the world. And so for me, it was a new mountain, and then I had to learn to listen a little more and just close my mouth and be willing to learn.
Okay. That's a good one. I think I can relate to the willing to bend the knee, as Sean and Bigger
And
Brand
as,
can attest to.
and as I would say, I had the right to remain silent. I just couldn't.
Yeah. So, let's see. So many. Let me find where I was at. Holy cow. Okay, so new fighter coming in, answered that one. All right, Sage asks, are there specific exercises you would suggest to help build muscle conditioning and rowing?
Rowing by itself, like I tell people, interval rowing or heart rate monitor rowing. Just pick what you're comfortable with, keep it your range. That's fine. I usually row intervals for time. There are tons of YouTube videos on great rowing skills. For me personally, I like the deadlift. I'm a huge fan of just your basic deadlift, whether it be for, I'm not a huge max fan, but deads by themselves are pretty good for posture. From foam, I lean forward a little bit because the swords are lighter and it's more in out poppy. And so what helped me square my shoulders and bring it back is I do front squats. I don't do a lot of back squats. I do something that really makes you keep your shoulders out. And I find that if you start really hammering your front squats, you'll naturally keep your shoulders back more. And that helps you with your throwing motion. It really helps you stay keyed into your core. And so if I didn't do anything else, it would be rowing, deads, and front squats.
Okay.
Even if body weight front squats. The reason I like it with a bar is because with a bar, to get in position, you have to roll your shoulders back, and that helps your posture. And posture is super keen in movement and SCA. Most people lean forward too much, or when they get tired, they start to droop and that'll help you not do that.
I'm not a fan of front squats. They're terrible.
What's that? Front squats?
Front squats are terrible. They're really good for you, but they're terrible.
The hardest part of a front squat is warming your shoulders up to get your hands in position, because when you start, you're too tense. All your tight. So it takes you like 10 minutes of rolling everything out, getting the bar, really getting your position. And then you do front squats. It's like a 12-minute warm up to do a 7-minute workout with fronts. And so I usually do part of like an AMRAP, do a 15-minute AMRAP, or just do something where you from row to front to something else, dips or lunges. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Okay, Jason asks, I've learned if I don't fight Sven and his boys specifically and as often as possible, I could even compete with them. My question is, what can us shield guys do to compete for your style?
A lot of it is exposure. A couple, three of the local Dukes who live in the area, my night and former squire brother and stuff, like I probably fought them 2 or 3 years before if your only exposure is through fighting, it's just going to take you a while to understand tendencies and what they're trying to do. You're just getting the receiving end of it. A lot of it is exposure. Like if I'm at an event or you see somebody, just come ask them what their approach is. Was that Jason Drysdale that asked that?
Yes.
Is that who that was? Yeah, it's he's currently Prince, as I'm stuck as king, but I knighted him in my first reign. I love that guy. But it's exposure, right? Don't be afraid to come up and ask questions, because what you see is not necessarily what the approach was.
Okay.
It just takes time to fight a new thing. Like, if you've not fought a glaive guy before, they're doing this, just killing you. Most people are just not used to the fact that we can throw with both hands. They're not used to the arm and leg leads. They're not used to that setup to the flat snap. You just have to be exposed to it. And it's just like drinking a tonic you don't like. It just takes time and practice. And for the most part, I tell people, if you want to get a lot of reps in, we do stuff in foam. We do different training drills and stuff. But fighting is probably most people's approach, and it's probably not the best way, but it is a way.
Okay.
It's just exposure. If you've not been exposed to it before, you're going to do poorly against it. I use Duke Sven as a great example. First time we met, Sean has a really good stutter to leg lead. Sean is taller than me, and so my natural tendency was to rise up. And man, he stuttered and set me up with a leg shot. I did pretty well with everything else, but I had a terrible time reading his leg lead. It just didn't do well with it. And so the next time we fought, I fought a little lower and I fought into his hand more, so that he'd have to throw down. No matter what he did, it would have to come down or around. And so I pre-positioned for it, and I did a lot more counters. a lot more step offs, a lot more just throw into his hand or shield to get him to throw down, and then I throw back. So it was just a different approach. And then he did something different. But you have to be exposed to it to understand what's going on. If you don't understand, ask. Put some time in.
Yeah.
Be willing to drink that losing pill. It's not all about winning. It's about learning.
Not about winning. You're losing anyway. So
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next one is what are it's going to be a long one, or it could be you do your best. So what are the basics of stick? This person is newish. They're still trying to learn swording, but two stick always seemed cool.
It's a terrible style, first and foremost. It's a hard style. It has no forgiveness whatsoever. And you have to understand how much time we spend with foam working towards being able to fight with two sword in the SCA. If you cannot consistently block your arm or your leg, don't fight two sword. It's miserable. You're just going to get beat up, and it's not a learning process. But when my guys come from foam, who are already pretty good over there, we do a ton of center grip shield because you really need to work on your striking skills, your individual in and outs, your setups, your leads. Too many two-sword people are more worried about that swinging. It's not about the slinging. It's about the setups. I do a lot of, front blade setup. You're just showing people something. You're presenting that offside. What you're looking for is a tendency or a habit. What do they do? What do they like? What's the return? What are they looking to do? What are you presenting for them? It's just a lot of probing and a lot of throwing, and then you'll throw the 1-2, or then you'll throw the over, to the back. But a lot of people don't see that. All they see is all these other people. We call it the spaghetti Florentine, or the guy who won't die. I hate that as a whole, but two sword is a lot of single shots, a ton of single shots with a couple doubles in there. It's a bang bang in and out. It's a lot of setup for a little bit of effort.
Yeah.
But it's not a style you should learn first. I'll be honest. I came over and I worked on two sword, and my night was like, hey, I need you to warm up right-handed sword and shield, fight two sword, and then at the end of the night fight lefty, sword and shield. And I hated it. I thought it was the worst thing ever. But what it did is it made me come from AMPGuard, where I'm used to moving and thinking too fast. It slowed me down. It made me think more precision, more throw, and it really helped me work on cleaning my striking up and slowing my thought process down and help. And so it was so effective for me that I have all my guys do it. We make you fight sword shield both hands, and right hand sword shield, hands down, my worst style. I kill people because they run out of energy. They get tired. I'm not a great one, but I just have good defense, and I make it hard. But I'm not the greatest right hand sword shield fighter. But I put my time in. All my guys do. It's good exercise, and it sucks. A little humility ain't that bad.
Yeah. Okay, so do you find in different games or types of fighting improve people's overall fighting? So, well, you've answered this, but which other games types are most helpful to heavy fighting?
So
Maybe
I've done.
I
did AMPGuard for a while, and it's towards the end of AMPGuard, I did some Bellegardes and some Dagger here, which are more full contact shield fighting, more shield bashing, shield kicking, more grab the weapon. But they didn't have the martial recognition system like AMPGuard did. AMPGuard has knights. It has warlords, sword knights. Warlord is their fighting prowess award. So you have tiered tournaments with match styles, and I'm a warlord over there from a very long time ago. And most of my students, you guys to see their knights or counts, they're also warlords. They're a 1% from another game that I brought over, so we cheat in a way. But I found that fighting is fighting. Every rule system has a way. I love saber fighting, electric saber, love it. Love Kali, love lightsaber fighting. I own like 8 lightsabers going out and fighting with these guys. It's good fun. You just have to understand the niche, what you're looking for there. Are you there to have fun? Are you there to learn? For me, the faster the weapon is, the harder it is to read, right? You have to have more focus on not being hit. Too many people, I think, in the SCA are just okay being hit. They're like, oh, I should throw now. And in foam, because it doesn't take much to be a blow, it teaches you more to be wary of the blade and more of a defense first mind, block, then hit them from a good position, a good set. And the minutia of AMPGuard, it teaches you that edge of measure, that suddenness that you need. A lot of people, they spend a lot of time doing these big shots, and And from your throwing position, you should just be able to throw and come back. There shouldn't be any of this big stuff. You're either ready to throw or you're not. And those really show up in foam. And so if you're trying to do some foam fighting and you find that you're getting hit a lot or you're having big motions, you probably got a little too much in your shots. So David Garcia, he posted that rap video to your channel the other day.
Yeah.
Dave is one of my students. He's my former Spar, Count Creppin. That's his student he's been working with, but he comes to my practice. And he's been up here 9 months, I guess, maybe closer to a year now. We've been working with him. And it's just an example of how we throw. It's not like we're trying to throw that big rap. You already got your thumb turned the direction you want it to go. So it's just back blade, right? And so you get that pitching motion with your hand already turned out. The wrap is easy. You don't have to do any big motion. Turn your hand out from your block, throw back edge to back edge. And you can do that whether it's over, down, or around it. And it's a very powerful throw. A lot of people, they were like, how you guys wrap so much from some weird positions? Like, well, when I've already turned and my hand is already facing away from you, and my blade is already facing the direction I want it to be,
right?
Just you with the back edge of the blade, right? Like, why would I turn it? And
yeah.
But we spend an inordinate amount of time. We call it like a false wrap. It's back edge to back edge, however you want to call it. But you spend a lot of time with that pitching motion. Like a traditional wrap is fine. Like the further you step, the more you need that shoulder drive because you have to get your body to extend out a little bit. You're going to push with your frame. But when the closer you get, the easier it is just to lock your shoulder and then just throw that false edge wrap. You don't have to do anything big. Just put core to core and just work on driving down with your shoulder. To a little side trail there. To me, I thought AMCAR was the best get out of the martial system. Not a lot of other people do. And I feel as though that's why SCA has people rise to the top in it because you gave them something to compete in. Without something to compete in, it's just kind of like, we do melee. But it had a tiered tournament setting, which I liked.
All right. We got 2 questions that I could see. So, and oh my gosh, there's so many comments. Do you have any movement or footwork or exercises that you use?
So we'll go back to what we talked about. As a whole, I don't teach footwork. I tell people you've been walking your whole life, right? Like I'm not going to get involved in that. If you don't fall down, you're not too stumbly. It's not really something I don't work on footwork. I do work on shot mechanics. Like once you've learned to throw a shot standing still, you learn to shot on one foot, the other foot. Once you can consistently do that, then it's the suddenness of stepping, right? Like it's not like it's not where you step and then your other foot comes along. Like it's going to be that suddenness, right? And so we work on suddenness going forward, suddenness going past. There's that suddenness, but most of that is back into a square stance. You're just sudden until you square, until you move. We do a lot more chest square, shorter feet, wider stance, and I don't really teach footwork. Your feet are either in the right position or they're not, and you're just gonna do it until they are. Like it's not a foot position so much. It is a throwing to recovery area. Like if you've thrown and you're in a bad position and your weight's kind of shifted over one foot, what should you do? You should follow and step with that foot, right? And you'll shift your feet and they'll go. But it's not like step here, throw. What do you feel like you should do? That's kind of like a Q&A. You'll feel when you're in and out of positions, and that will adjust how you position your frame and what you're trying to, whether you're trying to fight the shade of their shield or into their sword, But it's just a positional thing. It's not like footwork. You can walk. It just takes a little application of time. But it's literally the last thing we work on. But I don't teach footwork. I don't believe in it. You either are doing it right or doing it wrong. It just takes a little bit of practice. And by proxy, you'll get it.
Yeah, you're gonna lose a lot, and then you'll figure.
I think people spend too much time with it. They're like, "Oh, your feet that," and I don't think that's the issue. The footwork is it's a problem of something else. It's an issue you had because you were positionally bad or wrong, or you hunched, or you reached with your hands, or your feet were too long. You didn't bring your other foot with you. You left it, or you stepped past. It's not a footwork issue. Is it you did a fundamentally wrong thing? You should have been more upright. Your hands should have been more positioned. You should have brought your foot. You should have stepped sideways. It's not your feet are wrong. It's your bodily position wrong. When you position your body right, your feet will be underneath you. I assure you.
Okay, got it. Speaking of David Garcia, he has a question for you. So go ahead and come on, man.
Can you hear me, Your Majesty?
I can. How's it going, sir?
Your
Can't hear you now.
opinion. Oh, okay. Is my back?
You got it.
You're back.
Yep.
In your opinion, what's the most important shot for a Florentine fighter, left or right-handed wise, and why?
As a two-sword fighter, most people you're fighting are right-handed, obviously, right? And we teach a left foot, left hand forward position, and it's not much. Your left hand, your left foot is probably only 4 to 6 inches in front of your other foot. It's a very square stance, but most of that is either going to be that front edge or that back edge, depending on how people stand. Whether you're fighting a traditional A-frame or you're more closed off hanging guard styles. If you fight more hanging guard, how they print, it's going to be just that quick flat snap. But you got to be able to turn that quick flat snap into that back edge. Now, a lot of it's just that sell to that quick back edge. And most of my guys learn you obviously know this, you learn the back edge first, because we front blade practice, but for fighting, we tell you to back edge a lot, right? And usually I tell you you're overusing one, right? Because you've heard me say you're wrapping too much or you're throwing the front too much. It's because you need to be able to present one, throw the other, you know. But all the wrapping in the world doesn't do any good if you don't have that set to the outside or the threat, like you can hit them in the face. So it's kind of a triple thing. Obviously, as a two-sword fighter, if you're learning, obviously work on your wraps, just that quick back edge wrap or that quick front blade to the arm or to the leg, depending on how people stand or where they move their feet. But a good wrap, a good powerful wrap that recovers quickly is gold. And you know that.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
No problem.
All right. Okay, we got the last two questions. Your knight asks, suddenness is so important. Might you ask his factors in this?
Let's say that again. You broke up a little bit.
Okay, sorry. Your knight asks, what factors in this, because it's so important.
Oh, so you still broke up a little bit. He's asking about suddenness and why it matters. Yeah. Suddenness.
He said suddenness is so important. What factors into suddenness? Did that come through?
Yes. So suddenness. It's about like hand speed. Somebody's like, oh, that guy is real fast, or that guy is on you quick, and a lot of speed, so to say, is positioning. It's being in the right place at the right time. It's having good weight rated transfer. Like you're just in a good opportunity. Too many people they're worried about that big step and that big go, and they don't have any suddenness, or their hand is down in a non-throwing position, or it's over here. You know, there's no suddenness from a big hanging guard. Drake fights a traditional A-frame, and I usually have my right hand in a very sword forward position. You know, it's in front of my face or beside my head, and my left hand is even further forward and out. But what makes it suddenness is the ability to go forward. You know, it's not that lunging step. It's just the ability to go forward, and that is more like it's easier to describe in person. As you know, the feeling if you're standing there in your stance and you were to start to fall forward. Hey, buddy. You were start to fall forward, and you know how you have to move your feet to catch yourself. Hey, you want to come here? Come here. There he is again. Look at him. Let's say hi.
Hi, buddy.
You want a Skittle? All right, that's the only one you get. Take the Skittle and run.
Love it.
The suddenness though is more about. I explain it like that gravity fall. So you're at the edge of your range. You kind of got your feet even, and when you start to fall forward, how your front foot, you won't pick your foot up to catch you. You just move it to catch you, right? Like it's just barely kind of catches you. That's how your forward movement should be at the edge of range. When you roll forward, you want your body to feel like it's falling through the air, and you want your feet to move forward like they're catching you. You want that suddenness, and you don't want to have any big tail for that. You want to be set up when you're moving. You want it just to be sudden. You're either in there or you're out. You want to be to the side or you're out. But that's not picking your feet up. That's just being ready to catch and go. And it's something that's taken a little bit of practice. A lot of people step flat-footed. They're very heavy. They don't understand that, because when I'm throwing that long wrap shot, it's not like I step and go. is that when I lunge myself forward, my weight is actually falling. Like I'm letting myself go down, and that helps you. That body weight transfer into your sword, it helps you catch and go, bam. And then as you go, you just can't leave your back foot behind you. When you go, you want that foot to follow you, and you're just going to catch yourself with your feet. And this takes a lot of practice and repetition, but suddenness is the act of being prepared. It's having a good stance, a good setup, something. If I'm blocking shots, I don't have to move my hands a lot. I'm just ready, and then you go.
Perfect.
That makes sense.
That makes sense to me.
All right, and I saw Israel's thing pop up in chat on there. I saw where he was asking about Jason's question. Can you see that?
Yeah, it says expanding a bit on Jason's question. Do sword fighters do when we're home to train our combat skills against yours? And second question, what do you think the SCA to keep the game we have rather than becoming a virtual? If that last is an out of bounds question for that, okay.
No. To me, a lot of it is we go back to that basic conditioning and improvement, right? Like if you want to hit the rowing machine, you want to do a little work, a little pelling for me is super important, and you spend a lot of time in it. But you just got to be willing to train. The fighting against two stick thing is just an exposure thing. Like it's hard to prepare for something you don't fight against very much. I fight guys who are amazing at sword and shield. They do really well, the best in the world, but I fight them. They don't understand what we're doing. It's a different approach and a different aspect. Sometimes it's just hard to get into until you understand the minutia of it. Just takes practice. I'm not come across a lot of people who did really well, I guess, the first time outside of Uther beating the brakes off me, but I wanted to get my chance to get my lunch money back there, but he moved well and stayed well at range. And the first time he had fought my Spar and watched how he fought, he adjusted quick. It just takes exposures. I've not seen anybody really prepare quickly against it in the last 10 years for sure. And as far as virtual, I mean, I can't hit people virtually. I mean, I do play games and stuff online, but to me, it's about the hitting. Now, what I think SCA has a problem with is the age gap, is the age of communities and the fighters coming in, and the lack of how we treat newbies as a whole. I think the Outlands and Adenvelt do a great job with their communities. I think some other kingdoms could learn from them. I do my best. A lot of my guys in their 20s and 30s. I'm one of the younger knights. There's not a lot of knights younger than me, and I'm 43. I think that's an issue. I think we should have more younger peers for sure. But that's another discussion.
Yeah.
I can definitely diatribe into that for a little bit, but it's hard. It's when you have the age gap. When I'm the youngest guy at the party, and the guys I'm trying to recruit and teach are 20s. That's an issue as a whole. I think SCA as a whole, though.
Okay. Your Grace, Sean, come on camera and ask your question.
Hey there, Grace. Your Majesty, how you doing?
How's it going, Grace?
Couple of observations when you were talking about basically the first thing that I had talked about was passion. It's what Attilius referred to as finding your why, right? And asking your students if you love it or do you like it. For those that missed the earlier part of the interview, when I met His Majesty years ago, it was at a Penzic. And I was king, Timur was crown prince, and we were on the field with Duke Sven of Buckingham. And here comes the unbelted king's champion of Ansteorra. And that passion that you're talking about, it's like, while that was a fortuitous encounter, that was not an accident. Like, there was a reason that me and Timur were hanging out with Steve, and there was a reason that you came up looking for guys like us, right? That kind of passion, if you're you're always looking for it, you're always trying to create those opportunities to have those chance encounters where you just happen to stumble on, some of the best fighters at the event right there, and lo and behold, a guy like you, makes good on that and goes home and does the work. So I think that just, I think it just it kind of puts puts a fine point on what you were saying about that passion. Like you got to have it. If you have it, it's there.
You gotta love it. You gotta want it, love it. Because when you're wearing that ass whooping, you really gotta love it. And it was fun. I got you guys. I had never fought Beck, and Beck put the brakes on me. It was good fun, but you know, like you said, you gotta see what he was bringing, and it's gotta bother you. It's gotta give you solutions, stuff to work on. Like that can't be a downer for you. That's got to be something that entices you. It's like come a little closer. You know, like they're drawing you in. It's always been. I love it.
It's been a lot of fun for us as well. I also wanted to comment on where you're talking about your basic training methodology, which, as I'm sure would come as no surprise, sounds a lot like my training methodology. Achilles should be pretty familiar with some of that conversation because he and I had a conversation a little while ago. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that should sound familiar to him. But one of the things that I think people have a hard time understanding in the beginning, you know, like you said, you know, you're going to come to me for my help. Are you sure you want my help? You know, because
as I play more, I try to make sure they understand what they're asking for, because a lot of times you take it at face value that you think they understand. Most people do not understand unless they really understand. But once they do, they're there because they want to see the process through. They want to get better. But it's not a fast process. It's not an immediate process.
Right, and that's been my observation on that sort of thing. Is that it's what I call a slow burn training methodology. Right, there's a lot of nothing. You know, there's a lot of work and not a lot of product to show in the very early stages of it. And that's something that people kind of have to slog through a little bit. And like you said, they have to have faith in the process. They have to have faith in knowing that there is going to be some payoff, because when it makes that turn and they start seeing that improvement, it turns fast. And it's because we take that time. Go ahead.
I tell people the same thing. If you're coming and you know how to fight already, you're going to get worse before you get better. And a lot of people, they get disheartened because they're too worried about winning and losing. You know, that's what it goes back to. So,
yeah, and it's and when it turns fast, and there's no going back after that. But so much of that is laying that groundwork that you were talking about, and a lot of the tedious, monotonous basics that really don't feel like anything is, you know, it's the Mr. Miyagi, you know, school of thought, you know, it's like, why am I painting your house? It's like, well, because now you can block all this stuff. But it's like, it's stuff you don't understand. It's stuff that's boring. It's stuff that's tedious. And, you know, but when you finally get it, man, there's no going back, and you just skyrocket after that. But a lot of work in the beginning. So good stuff. Always good stuff, sir.
Well, it's good to see you again, you guys. Sorry we didn't get to come up anytime soon. Maybe this whole travel restriction, we'll get to fly up there and fight again.
Yeah, we got some plans in the works to do a thing maybe next year. So you'll be hearing about that soon.
If the West still has their thing, I'm going to it.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Have a good night, man.
Last question of the night, and I think this is going to be a really good one to close on. Do you have any advice on helping to relax during a fight? They often find themselves thinking too much during a fight.
Relaxing. A lot of it is what you're doing can't be tiring. You can't be worried about what you're trying to hit or picking your hands up, or you got to take that mental exhaustion away, right? Or that mental thought. And so a lot of people, I'll do a sidetrack and then we'll address that. So a lot of people ask me if I'm left-handed, right? And I said, no, I'm not left-handed. When I was 19 or right at 20, I tore all the tendons in this thumb. Yeah, see, it's been over 20 years and it still won't lay all the way down. Like I can press it down, but it's definitely not what it was. So for about a year, I couldn't do this. I had to have it operated on everything. And so essentially for a year, I was left-handed. I'd do everything left-handed. And at the end of that time, you just put that minor motor skills and everything. I was still fighting in foam, and I found that if they were right-handed and I fought them left-handed, I won more than I lost. And when I came out, if they were left-handed, I fought them right-handed. So come on, this little theory of hand matching. It's a lot of it was just application of time and getting whooped on. But as far as relaxing goes, nothing about what you do, you can't be thinking about like, oh, should I pick my shield up or my feet too wide? You have to allow have that mental noise has to be gone, right? And it takes a while to get rid of that mental noise and the stuff that takes your mind away from the fight. In addition to, you can't be tired and you can't be worried about getting hit with a stick. Either have armor that you're not worried about getting hit in, or just don't worry about getting hit. Like, it's not that bad. You get hit, it's unpleasant. If it is unpleasant, wear more. But you can't be worried about that fear. Can't bother you, because that fear takes away from your focus of the fight. It's something else in the back of your mind, like, oh, I don't want this guy to hit me, or oh, this guy always kills me. Like, the less you worry about that, the better you will do. You have to clear your internal head first, take away all that subconscious noise and all that distractions, and only worry about doing what you've been practicing, what you've been doing past the day. We say it, the more I train, the luckier I get. You know,
Yeah.
and it's because I'll do some weird moves or blocks, and it's not stuff I train. It's just because it's just like, oh, you see it at that last minute. You're like, I'm in a bad position. Maybe this will work. You're like, nah, that was decent. It's not the greatest thing, but it got me out of a bad spot. And it's because you just can't worry about being hit. You can't worry about the outcome of the fight. You just do your thing and go. Just get in there and get it. And it's just going to take you time to relax, because you're going to get your heart rate up. It's going to bother you. And a year or two in the helmet, you'll find that it doesn't bother you anymore. When I first started the SCA, I come from another fighting group, great stamina over here. Like, I was just tensed up because I worried about getting hit. You know, like I get hit, I used to do a little dance like, oh, it hurts, you know. And now I get hit, you know, I'm like, oh, it's nice. You know, I was like, but it can't bother you. It can't be something you think about. And then the next fight, don't think about the first fight outside of if you did something dumb. Like, don't be like, oh, I don't want to get hit in that same spot again. Just fight your fight. The more you get rid of all that stuff, the less problems you'll have concentrating on the fight.
Perfect.
The more you'll be able to.
I love it. We're going to tie this up, but do you have any last, anything you want to go over that you missed, or any last thoughts that you have?
Sure. We'll talk about all the stuff we talk about is preparation, right? Like, it's what you get what you put in. If you lose a tournament or something, if you didn't put the effort in, don't be upset that you didn't win, or that you didn't place, or you didn't do as well as you want to. You get what you put in. Be honest with yourself. Spend the time, or don't. But don't be all disappointed when you don't get success from not being honest with yourself. Okay. I was like, this is what it is. It's a self-fight. Sword fighting is a very, very one-on-one sport. It's very much about imposing your will upon others. Just love it for what it is and put the time in. Right now, I'm not putting the time in. The problem is, for me, I'm putting the time in for like 20 guys. You know, it's not a whole lot of people that press me, that worry me, and so I have a hard time motivating myself. But when my guys are here, it motivates me. I motivate them easily. Find what motivates you. Get out there and put the wood to people.
Love it. Put the wood to people. All righty.
In Texas, we call it taking them to the woodshed.
Yeah.
On the woodshed.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show this evening, Your Majesty. I'm sorry it took us so long to get everything planned out and schedules aligned just perfect, and then almost had to cancel today, and then the life of the oil field for me.
That works. If anybody has any questions or anything, you know, y'all feel free to message me. I'll try to answer stuff, and sometimes make sense of it. My little redneck drawl, make it make sense. But I do a lot of traveling. I try to make it up to Ontario pretty regular. I'm going to the West later this year, so long as it doesn't get canceled. I won't make Penzic this year because I'm done with that for a little bit. But
actually,
I try to.
Sorry to interrupt you. There is one final question from Sir Helga. She asked me to ask you to properly pronounce Your Majesty.
What? Your Majesty.
Yeah.
No, I mess with her because my knight is a Duke and several other people. So it was always Yo Grace, Yo Majesty. Yo. And they're like, did you say yo? I was like, yeah, like you know, that Texas drop, yo, or Majesty.
Yeah. Give it a little fluff, a little flair.
Yeah. Helga and I hung out a lot at Ansteorra. They camped near us, and I imparted upon my Texas accent on all of them who had lived through Texas, and I made sure to throw the hillbilly on there extra thick, so that she would carry that back home to Hans. And he'd be like, "Who you been hanging around that talk like a hick?"
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right. Perfect. So hopefully you'll be able to hit up some of these events and next year at Estrella, if you're there, I will make sure to.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to make Estrella this year. Next year, I'm definitely gonna try to step in sometime soon. Probably virtually. I'm not waiting until all this is over.
Yeah. Right. So, all right, guys. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and thanks again, Your Majesty, for tuning in and giving us your 5 methods. We really appreciate it in this time of need. This is more for an announcement for everybody else that's still watching. This will be the last episode. Well, not the last episode forever, but until I get back from work, just due to work schedules and stuff, it'll be about 2, maybe 3 weeks before we have another episode of this. So this was a really good one to close in on, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.